Morning, Cheryl. How are you?
I am fine and I'm delighted to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on to the show. And I wanted to ask you about Terry Naturally. Can you tell us a bit of the story of Terry Naturally as a brand, as a company?
Well, it's a brand, a company, and a human being.
Hmm.
There's a gentleman named Terry Limerond who many, many years ago had some serious health issues himself, and he decided he wanted to live a healthier life. And once he was introduced to a healthier lifestyle, there was no holding him back. And he founded his first health food store in sunny Green Bay, Wisconsin. And after a few years of running this health food store, he started to feel that some of the products weren't working the way he expected them to. And he felt that some of the ingredients might work together better as formulas than as single ingredients. This was back, decades ago. And so he launched a company out of the back room of his health food store called Enzymatic Therapy. And that company, over the course of 20 years, grew to be an international company with product sales in 50 states in the United States, all 50 states, all the provinces in Canada, and 31 foreign countries. So it became an incredibly successful company, and he decided he wanted to do some other things. He sold the company, and he says that, he has very mixed feelings about that, but he wanted to do some other things and then realized that his heart is really in dietary supplements and natural medicines. And so about, 12 years ago, when his non-compete was up, he founded a second company called EuroPharma. And EuroPharma makes the Terry Naturally Canada brand of dietary supplements. And we just couldn't be more delighted to be able to expand the lineup of our clinically studied, highly effective supplements for our as a part of our Canadian company as well. So he's just an amazing man. He's the person who introduced glucosamine sulfate to North America, which
Oh,
I often joke to him, gosh, I wish we could have patented that somehow because I'd be driving a very fancy car right now. Because glucosamine sulfate sells over $900 million a year in United States and Canada alone. And so, when we look at some of his important first, he's the person who introduced the concept of botanical standardization to the United States. He did a lot of work with forward thinkers in Europe and people who are working with botanical medicines in Europe. And then we come back to the United States and products were standardized, and there was no way to tell if the first bottle was going to be as effective as the second bottle. And so he introduced standardization. He's the first to introduce standardized black cohosh, standardized ginkgo, standardized saw palmetto. So he had a lot of incredible, important firsts. In 2017, he was inducted into the Natural Products Industry Hall of Legends. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend that ceremony. So I'm very, very proud of the fact that I work for a company that has, such passionate roots in trying to help people. Terry is still our leader to this day. He did do something interesting a couple years ago. He said, he did not think that for this country, for this company to continue for another 100 years, that it was going to be only owned by him, that in order for the company to have a permanent presence, that he wanted it to be owned by the employees. And so he gifted every employee in the company with shares of Terry Naturally and EuroPharma, Terry Naturally. So now we are an employee-owned company. He is still our president and our founder, and he is in the office every day by 6 a.m., ready to get to work. So we have a really wonderful background of growing up organically within this industry rather than being someone who came in from outside the natural products world who decided that, hey, it looks like this might be a lucrative business deal. Every product that we launch is not launched because we think it's going to be a bestseller. We launch it because we think there's a need and there's something different about our product that can make a real difference in the health of people.
wonderful. And it all started from the back of his store. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. What a
Isn't that
wonderful story.
amazing?
It
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
And speaking of products, we're talking about AnxioCalm today. And
Mhm.
can you tell us a little bit about that product?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
AnxioCalm was developed by the Academy of Science in Budapest, Hungary. And they were not doing research exactly on botanicals, they were doing research on certain receptors in the brain called cannabinoid receptors.
Hmm.
So, a lot of people have heard of cannabinoids because of cannabis, which is marijuana and hemp and CBD in that family. But there's a lot of different plants that have these plant-based cannabinoids in them that can interact with these receptors. So the researchers had identified cannabinoid receptors in the brain that were highly specific to the sensation of anxiety, of how you feel when you're anxious. You know, that tight feeling, that overwhelmed, like you can't cope,
Hmm.
the butterflies in the stomach, you know, all of those sensations of anxiety that we all get sometime or another. And they looked for what compounds interacted the most powerfully with those cannabinoid receptors. And they found that there's a compound, a proprietary, like a ratio of alkamides in, of all things, echinacea.
Very interesting.
Isn't that interesting? That works on these anxiety, the anxiety specific cannabinoid receptors in the brain. So they started to look at it. Now it's not whole echinacea, because when I say echinacea, everybody says, "Oh, healthy immune system."
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but that's a whole echinacea, and that's any species of echinacea, whether it's pallida or angustifolia.
Hmm.
This is not whole echinacea. In fact, you can take buckets of whole echinacea, and it's not going to help your anxiety, because these compounds occur in very small amounts. So they have to be extracted and concentrated in order for them to provide that benefit of reducing anxiety. They chose Echinacea angustifolia because the compounds are most plentiful in that plant source. But they do have plant cannabinoids in other species of Echinacea as well. They just don't have as many. So they extracted it, they concentrated it, and then they started. First, they started with animal studies, and I'm not a huge fan of animal studies.
Hmm.
But you know, it's when they were doing this development, it's the way they do things. And fortunately, none of the animals were harmed. And they started out with mice. So mice have, interestingly, mice have competing desires. Mice love to explore. They don't, you know, they don't like to stand still. They like to scurry about and look for things, because they never know where they're going to come across somebody dropped a cupcake, or they found a kernel of corn out by the bird feeder, or whatever it is that the little mice find. That's one of their compulsions, is to scurry about and look for things. They also have another thing, that they don't like to be out in the open, because you know it's been inbred into them. If a mouse enjoys being out in the open too much, then an owl's going to swoop down, or a hawk's going to swoop down and grab them right up. So they were looking at, that is an animal model of anxiety. So
Hmm.
they created this little T, it's like a cross-shaped maze where it has four arms. Two of the arms of the maze has walls, and the other two arms of the maze look like diving boards over a swimming pool. They're kind of open on the sides. There's no walls on the sides of the maze. And they released the mice, and they watched them and tracked their patterns of exploration. Well, back and forth, they explored the sides that had the walls, because they weren't out in the open. But
Hmm.
they barely ventured out onto the arms of the maze that were not covered with walls. So then they gave the mice a dose of this new extraction of echinacea. I don't even know if they'd named it AnxioCalm yet, but they gave them this unique concentrated ratio of compounds. And the mice, they put them back in the maze, and this time they explored every arm of the maze thoroughly and equally. So they were able to overcome their anxiety to go out in the open to the open arms of the maze to explore those arms as well. So this let the researchers know that they were onto something really good. So they progressed to human trials and looked at the ability of they're tiny little tablets, because remember I said they take the compounds out and concentrate them.
Hmm.
So they give these tiny little tablets to people who were complaining about anxiety, of feeling really stressed, and they looked at the ability to reduce anxiety, and they noticed that in only 1 day of use, they had reductions in anxiety. After 3 days of use, it was even better. After 7 days of use, it was better still. So people who were feeling a little bit of regular anxiety every day, or occasional anxiety, they really got some relief from this. Since then, we've done there's been another human clinical trial looking at the benefits, and our reports from folks who use AnxioCalm is that they generally feel a difference the very first day they use the product. I don't like to promise that because you're always going to have someone who maybe it takes a couple of days of use for them to, really feel comfortable, but it's just amazing. And I love it because it's non-addictive, so you don't have to worry about that. It doesn't have any serious side effects. It's not going to make you sleepy or groggy. So it's like it's got all the pluses and none of the minuses.
Sounds very different from any other products that I've heard of on the market.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, is it a cumulative effect, or is it do you need to keep taking it in order to have results, or?
It's a little bit of both.
Mhm.
For some people, let's say you're uncomfortable getting on airplanes.
Mm.
Who isn't uncomfortable nowadays, right? But,
Yes.
say you have a little bit, maybe it's not a horrible, debilitating fear of flying, but you get really anxious if you have to get on an airplane. If you take 1 or 2 AnxioCalm, about a half hour to an hour in advance, you're going to have a much better experience. You're going to feel much less uncomfortable. So you can use it occasionally, absolutely. But some people just run a little high every day. They run a little bit more anxious every single day. And, they have more, this regular anxiety. Maybe they just respond to things a little bit more quickly. And for those individuals, it's safe to use every single day. And yes, we have noticed that the benefits improve with 7, 8 days use.
Fantastic. And can I ask you, are there any other ingredients in this or
It's
preservatives?
Well, we have in our products what we
Mhm.
call excipients. So
Okay.
excipients are non-active compounds that play a role in protecting the product or delivering the key active. So the only ingredient that's an active ingredient in AnxioCalm is this echinacea extract itself. It does contain a few excipients to keep it stable, to hold the tablet together, and to make sure that it dissolves properly once you swallow it, because we do dissolution and disintegration testing on every single product we sell. Because if you take a tablet and it doesn't dissolve, you're not going to get very many health benefits. So that's something that we check every single batch in order to make sure that you're getting what you expect, that you're getting what you paid for.
Excellent. And can I ask, who should be using this product?
Well, in Canada, it's approved for adults 19 years and older. You can use it 1 tablet 2 times daily. Some people like to take a little bit more, some people take less. It's whatever makes you comfortable. And then there's when you say who would be beneficial, well, just about anybody. I think all of us experience uncomfortable anxiety at one time or another.
Right. So anyone having feelings of anxiety out there.
Mhm.
And can I ask you, do you have a personal experience or testimonial you'd like to share about this product?
Um, yes, I do have a personal experience in using this product. When I get around Christmas, sometimes I go a little crazy. I'm an over decorator, and and this year was actually quite quiet because we didn't have the big family gatherings. But
Mhm.
in the past, I have found that sometimes I'm so involved in getting ready for the holidays or getting ready for the big dinner when all the family gathers. I want
Mm.
to see everybody, but I find that I'm not enjoying it myself. That I get to the end of it and think, wow, that was a lot of work, but I didn't really have very much fun. And decided after we launched this product, well, I'm just going to give it a try. And I used this product over the holidays, and all of a sudden I realized that I wasn't as stressed out. And if the potatoes didn't get quite, if they weren't quite ready yet, when the rest of the meal was ready, we could all wait 5 minutes and it wasn't the end of the world. And I just had a better experience. My experience with it isn't that it's like, uh, it doesn't make you all of a sudden happy. It's not like that goofy feeling you get sometimes. I always tell people this is not a shot of tequila in a pill. It's not that kind of product. You're not going to feel a sudden like, you just all of a sudden notice that you're more comfortable. You're enjoying things more. Your stomach isn't, getting the butterflies. You just feel more calm and in control. And I love that it doesn't interfere with your thinking or with your
Mhm.
judgment or with your focus.
Well, it sounds fantastic. I certainly should try that myself. Where can we find the product out there?
It is available in, quality health food stores all
Mhm.
across Canada. For more information, you can visit our website at uh, terrynaturallycanada.ca. And, I believe that you can look up a store that's close to you if you want to find this product.
Fantastic. That sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl, for taking the time with me today. Are there any other final words you'd like to say?
No, it's just that I think that this is something that, especially nowadays, I think that everybody's having a little bit more anxiety, and anxiety robs you of the joy of your day. And when you are not having a good time, sometimes your family's not having a good time too.
Mhm.
I think it's just good for everyone. Oh, and I want to repeat the website because I think I made a mistake. It's terrynaturally.ca, and Terry Naturally is all one word. And you can use their zip code finder and get a store close to you if you're interested in AnxioCalm.
Excellent. Well, everyone will have that correct website address out there. And thank you again, Cheryl. It was a pleasure speaking with you and learning about Anxiocom and Terry Naturally.
Thank you so much.